One of the many things that the Folger Shakespeare Library is known for is its sculptures on the outside of its library that depict several of Shakespeare's most famous plays. We're going to play a little game here called Name That Shakespearean Play! Yeah, that's right, folks. Name that Shakespearean play. I will be saying quotes from the plays while the picture of the sculpture is showing, and we'll see if you can guess it. Are you ready? Let's do this.
I pray thee, gentle mortal, sing again. Mine ear is much enamored of thy note, so is mine eye enthralled to thy shape, and thy fair virtue's force perforce doth move me on the first view to swear, I love thee. Methinks, mistress, you should have little reason for that, and yet, to say the truth, reason and love keep little company together nowadays. The more the pity that some honest neighbors will not make them friends. Nay, I can gleek upon occasion. Earlier in the play we have the course of true love never did run smooth. And then another famous quote is, Lord, what fools these mortals be. These were, of course, quotes from A Midsummer Night's Dream. Bottom and Titania were the first quotes that I read out loud. Titania had been tricked into falling in love with the first thing she saw after she fell asleep by Puck's magic. And Puck also turned Bottom the Weaver into an ass head, which was a donkey head. The second quote was, the course of true love never did run smooth. That was by Lysander. And the third quote was another quote by Puck. Lord, what fools these mortals be. Two households, both alike in dignity, in fair Verona where we lay our scene, from ancient grudge break to new mutiny, where civil blood makes civil hands unclean. From forth the fatal loins of these two foes, a pair of star-crossed lovers take their life, whose misadventured piteous overthrows doth with their death bury their parents' strife. That's part of the prologue of this play. Another one is probably the most famous Shakespeare quotation of all time. Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? And one little note on that, wherefore means why. Many people that are beginning Shakespeare enthusiasts think that wherefore is where, wherefore means why. Which play is this? This, of course, was from Romeo and Juliet. I think it was pretty obvious with the second quote, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? And Juliet is saying that quote, asking why, of all the people that she fell in love with, did it have to be Romeo, the family that her family hates? And then the first one was from the prologue. I only read about half of it, but the prologue basically lays out the whole story of Romeo and Juliet. The pound of flesh which I demand of him is dearly bought. 'Tis mine, and I will have it. If you deny me, fie upon your law. And then another part of the play. If you prick us, do we not bleed? If you tickle us, do we not laugh? If you poison us, do we not die? And if you wrong us, shall we not revenge? If we are like you in the rest, we will resemble you in that. If a Jew wrong a Christian, what is his humility? Revenge. If a Christian wrong a Jew, what should his sufferance be by Christian example? Why? Revenge. The villainy you teach me, I will execute, and it shall go hard, but I will better the instruction. The play is Merchant of Venice, and those lines were spoken by Shylock, a Jew, and one of Shakespeare's most famous characters. The pound of flesh line is still used today in certain situations. A pound for your flesh.
Fair is foul, and foul is fair. Hover through the fog in filthy air.
Speak if you can. What are you?
All hail, Macbeth! Hail to thee, Thane of Glamis! All hail, Macbeth! Hail to thee, Thane of Cawdor! All hail, Macbeth! That shall be king hereafter!
Middle of the play. Is this a dagger which I see before me, the handle toward my hand? Later in the play. Out, damn spot! Out, I say! And then the soliloquy. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow creeps in this petty pace from day to day to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays have lighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow, a poor player that struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Of course, this play was Macbeth. That soliloquy we said at the end is the one that the freshmen will memorize every year in ninth grade academy. Some of the other scenes were when Macbeth first encounters the witches. Another scene is the dagger, where the ghostly dagger appears before him, leading him to murder King Duncan. And finally, Lady Macbeth trying to get the imaginary blood out of her hands after she's committed murder and she's going crazy. To Brute, then fall Caesar. And later on, friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. And then who can forget, beware the Ides of March. You had better figured out that that was Julius Caesar, considering the fact that I said Caesar twice in the passages. The lines were from when Caesar gets stabbed by Brutus, the Et tu, Brute. Friends, Romans, countrymen was spoken by Mark Antony at the funeral, and of course the famous soothsayer speech that you can see all over my room, beware the Ides of March. Nothing will come of nothing. How sharper than a serpent's tooth it is to have a thankless child. Blow, winds, and crack your cheeks, rage, blow. I am bound upon a wheel of fire, that mine own tears do scald like molten lead. Is this the promised end? Why should a dog, a horse, a rat have life, and thou no breath at all? All of those short quotes were from the play King Lear, a story about a man who kind of loses his sanity and has to try and figure out how to divide his kingdom among 3 daughters. Now is the winter of our discontent, made glorious summer by this son of York, and all the clouds that lowered upon our house in the deep bosom of the ocean buried. A horse, my kingdom for a horse! I am not in the giving vein today. Those lines were from Richard III. The one in particular about the winter of our discontent is one of the most famous in Shakespeare's language. A horse, my kingdom for a horse is also often quoted as well. A little more than kin and less than kind. The funeral baked meats did coldly furnish forth the marriage tables. This above all, to thine own self be true. Something is rotten in the state of Denmark. Brevity is the soul of wit. The play's the thing. The lady protests too much, methinks. Good night, sweet prince, and flights of angels sing thee to thy rest. All these lines were from Shakespeare's Hamlet, which was probably his most famous play. I did not even include To Be or Not to Be, which is the most famous lines in all of Shakespeare. However, my favorite lines that I read were, the funeral baked meats did coldly furnish forth the marriage tables. The reason I like that so much is because Hamlet is completely ripping on his mother at that point, saying, I think you used the food from my father's funeral for my uncle and yours wedding. And obviously that's not really realistic, but I thought it was a good rip nonetheless. The play is Henry IV Part 1, which is a history play, but it is one of the most popular plays to teach, period, and the most popular history play to teach. The lines you heard were from Sir John Falstaff, who is one of Shakespeare's most famous characters. Why, thou clay-brained guts, thou naughty-pated fool, thou whore's son, obscene, greasy tallow-catch. And later on in that scene, banish Peto, banish Bardolph, banish Powens, but for sweet Jack Falstaff, kind Jack Falstaff, true Jack Falstaff, valiant Jack Falstaff, and therefore more valiant, being as he is, old Jack Falstaff, banish not him thy Harry's company, banish not him thy Harry's company, banish plump Jack, and banish all the world.
Please continue to part 2 of the Folger Sculpture and Art Quiz. It's here on YouTube.